Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. All right, you ready for the lesson today? The lesson today is the lesson I am learning all about. Because, you know, one of the things that just really lit me up and made me understand completely how everything is just, you know, we talk about building that bridge and just the struggle at the beginning is the, you know, when we send people into space or we send any rocket into space, do you know when the hardest part for the whole thing is? It's liftoff. It's the first 60 seconds of any space launch. And do you know why that is? It's because that's the one that requires the most energy, the most fuel, the most everything in order to get it up and out of the atmosphere and away from the gravitational pull. So for us, it's getting away from the sofa pull, right? We know about that, the couch pull, the gravity of the couch pulling us. And we need to look at that and understand that if we can just get past the gravitational pull of the beginning, then we can start to harness the next physics lesson that we want, and that is momentum. So we understand about physics, right? We understand about gravity and what it is. Thank you, Mr. Newton, or Sir Isaac, you know, thank you for that. Here goes the apple, boom, we understand how it falls. But we also understand in order to bust through it, you're gonna have to put a whole heck of a lot of energy into the very beginning. It's going to cause mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, all the things. It involves your entire person. It really does. And if we think it's just one thing, it's not. It can be simplified and put down into the place of just simply writing out, this is a part of my routine. At 10 to 11 a.m. every morning, I'm going to go do X, Y, Z. But to get into that and actually do it requires the mental tenacity to be able to do it. It requires putting the energy toward that and not just brushing it off. And I think that's one of the reasons why we stop and don't get to the place of actually doing, because we haven't taken all of that energy and converted it and put it into the actual startup. We've got a rocket ship to launch, y'all, because that's how we rocket into the life that we want to lead. And you know what the other cool part about this is, and it really does follow, this whole metaphor really does follow, is that once we have the initial energy put into the change that we want to make, then we get to harness the momentum, and that gets to take us to the place of magic. You know the whole formula there, right? It's easy. Motivation plus momentum equals magic. And the motivation for change is whatever the motivation for change is. Maybe you just wake up one day, or you see a picture of yourself, or the doctor gives you news. Whatever your motivation for change is, that's the thing that makes you go to the next place, from motivation into getting into the place of momentum. But that little bridge right there needs a whole heck of a lot of energy. It requires it. And that's where most of the work is done. Because if we can get that part done, if we can get that part in and plugged in, then the rest of it starts to become so much easier, because it's just part of what you do. It's just getting up in the morning and pressing play on your coffee pot. It's just getting up in the morning and doing getting your dishwasher unloaded and doing a 4-minute workout. It's just doing at that point. It's creating and doing, but understanding that the work is at the front of it. And the other thing thing that I want to bring into this equation, because I think this is so important, and I'm learning this from Robin Sharma. You know, he's got a 5 a.m. club type of a book, which I'm not going to get up at 5 a.m., but I love the wee hours of the morning, and I like getting up early where the house is quiet and it's dark and I've got to put on lights. And it gives me an opportunity to really go through and have my morning routine all by myself in the quiet, and to do some quality work. This could be something, moving those big, you know, eating the frog first thing in the morning, right? Putting the big boulder in the jar first, doing the big stuff and working on that. That really makes all the difference in the world. And when you get slow and you get off you get off on the wrong foot, I feel like you're catching up all day. So getting up a little bit early, going to bed a little bit earlier, and cranking in and refining your own personal routine makes all the difference in the world. Now, I know that there's a lot of people who say, well, I do that late at night and blah, blah, blah. But physiologically, your body is more adapted and adaptable to doing it early in the morning. You know, that is a big, huge deal. That is a big, huge deal. So the other thing we've got to look at is it also takes us from a whole different person. It changes our identity. We're no longer superficial and just glancing at headlines and just doing a little bit. We're now becoming masters of our own selves. We're becoming masters of our own selves. And the way that we do this is that instead of going to quick and shallow, we go to mastery. And instead of just reading the headlines, we're going to dig deep and read the research. And we're going to go into the depths of what it is about. Because, you know, there's so much involved. You've seen this. I mean, I think our whole, nation is based a lot of times doing things out of this big passion for, whatever they're doing things for, based on superficial stuff that they haven't bothered to dig into. That's scary. How do you make decisions about your health, your life, the path that you want to pursue if you're not going to dig in and really go in there and get to the place of mastery? And when we do this, it changes and calibrates our life to a whole different level. I have a friend, Sean Croxton. I've told you about him. He's Quote of the Day. He's got a podcast that I listen to almost every day. But because it's 10 minutes, it's something just a little bit motivating, and it's great. And one of the things that he says is, he told me, because I was saying, I'm really struggling with this. What do I do with this? What do I do? Now, Sean is, he's gone to college and whatever, but he's very self-taught. He's very much into books, and he reads everything, and he changed his entire life. And what he said to me was this, and it just blew me away. I said, I'm having a hard time with this. What do I do with this? And what would you recommend? And he goes, read this book. Read it. And he goes, take a pencil, do a highlighter, read this book. I don't even remember what the book was now, but I took his advice, and he said, it will take you out of this place of not knowing what to do and into the place of mastery. And I thought about that, and I've reflected on that so many times. And we get to this place of stuck and think we can't figure it out. And then I think about what we have literally at our fingertips. We've got a computer. We all have computers. That's why you're here, right? If you're saying, no, I'm watching you on my phone. That's a computer. Your phone has more juice in it and more energy and more wherewithal than the first trip to the moon did. You've got more in that little phone than that whole room had way back then in the 60s. That's where our technology has gone. Technology has given us the impetus to be able to learn anything that we want to. Anything. And we had a question yesterday on the Q&A. Somebody was asking, forgive me, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Christy, but I could be wrong, who was asking how to dig into PubMed. How do I do a search in there so I don't get overwhelmed with results? And I was thinking about that last night as I was going to bed, which is crazy, but sometimes you go through and think about your day. And I was thinking about, I just wanted to say to her, good for you. Good for you for making that decision to go in and get your own information, do your own research. We all need to do that, because then we own it. And then we understand our path, and it takes us from being helpless and hapless into being strong and determined and having a path, because we understand what we're about. We understand what we read. It's not going to get us to the place of being as, on the same footing as, a PhD or an MD or anything like that, but it's going to get us to past the place of just, I heard that, to the place of, I read. There's a big difference from I heard to I read. I read says mastery. I heard says I'll just listen to any little thing that comes my way. You see the difference between the two things? And mastery is the thing that's going to build the house you want. Are you going to hire somebody who's an illegal contractor? Are you going to hire somebody who doesn't know a thing? Are you going to be that person who doesn't know anything and who's going to come in and you're going to ask them to build your house? You want somebody with mastery who's going to build your house. Well, that's how it is with our thought processes. We want mastery in our thought processes. We want mastery in our thought processes so that we can go the next step, so that we can create the life we want to live. We can't do that with hearsay. We have to do it with facts. We have to do it with things that are going to move the needle in our lives. That's why mastery is so important. So how do we get there? One is we learn and we grow. Number one, learn and grow. Read. Fill your mind with the things that get you to the place of feeling like, now I understand. When you understand something better, then you can go forward. This is why we do all the webinars we do. I know I can say to you, just read the guide. It's 18 pages, the sprint guide. It's free, it's this, it's that. But when you go through the webinar, then you have a good basic understanding. Now you know, even though I think a lot of it's written out there, now you know and you see all the reasons on why it was put together like that. And then you can say, yeah, I'm with you. I'm going there, or no, that's just not for me. You're not going to hurt my feelings, I promise you. But understanding something is the first step to getting to the place of creating the life that you want to live. When you understand, then you're willing to make those changes. So we learn and we grow and we get better awareness out of the deal, right? I mean, it's just that simple. Number two is we go to the place of implementation and execution. And that's making better choices, because when we're aware and when we know better, we can do better and we can make those choices. As long as we're willing to get into the cycle and get past the hard stuff. Because remember, that first 60 seconds on any liftoff into space is where all the energy has to go. That's what gives you the lift off. And same here in our lives. If we want to harness momentum, we have to understand where our energy goes. And that makes it that much easier, because then we know the pushback that we're getting, the resistance that we're feeling, that's just gravitational pull. We've got to bust out of it. We got to put everything that we have into it and just go ahead and, clip on to the bike anyway, even if you don't want to. So what? How many times have you not wanted to go to work, but you get in the car and you go anywhere? How many times have you said, I just don't want to change this dirty diaper on this kid? But you do anyway, right? We do things that we don't want to do all the time. Can you imagine if we finally decide to say to ourselves, it's enough resistance. I get what's going on here. And now I just need to put my energy into this change that I want to make for my life. How much better is that going to be? Not only you're going to have the better awareness, now you're going to start making those better choices because you understand you're putting everything on the line here. Everything. And number three is you're going to have a greater impact. We have a greater impact when we have greater vibrancy. The two go hand in hand. And you want to know something else? That leads to the place where you're going to get more back than you even put out. Because there's a ripple effect here. More physics. Drop something in and watch those ripples go. Yes, exactly, Lynn. Progress, not perfection. And that's exactly what it is. We're shooting for excellence here. We're shooting for an excellent life. Because at the very end, isn't this what we want? Isn't this what we want? We want to live our life. We want to leave it all on the dance floor. I always say that because that's what it is. I want to dance like nobody's watching. I want to have all of it left here and go to the next place and say, you know what, I did everything I had. I took every single talent you gave me and I used it all up. I took everything that was out there and I just used it. I used it to your glory, and also for the connections that I have all over this United States, all over this world, all over everywhere. Because when we do this, we are living our lives on purpose, and our purpose becomes very evident. And when that happens, oh my gosh, when that happens, all of a sudden our lives are living lives of mastery all the time. Everything up levels, everything. It has to. It goes that way because you have lifted the standards in your lives. So you live full out, you know, and I love what Robin Sharma says. It's hard at the start, it's messy in the middle, but it's gorgeous at the end. Isn't that just the truth? It is messy in the middle because sometimes you think, am I doing this right? Is it working out? At the beginning, it's hard. You're fighting, you know, you're trying to get out of the gravitational pull of the couch. And in the middle, you're going, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right, whatever. But then you start to see results. You know, even in all your failure, even in all your keep trying again and trying again, because wise women never quit on themselves. And what do we see? We get results. We get that happy vibrancy that we have been seeking. And that's what it is. We get an opportunity to serve because we're no longer tired and pulled down and sitting on the couch. We are instead full of vibrancy. We get to serve our fellow man. We get to be purposeful, and we get to be the people that live lives on purpose and not lackluster, purposeless lives. Purposeless. Because what's the point? You can 3x your life just by doing these things. 3x it. Just by starting one thing and saying, I'm put everything that I have into this one thing. Just everything. And I know there's going to be resistance and pushback. I know. And then number 2, but I know it's going to be maybe a little messy in the middle, but I know it's going to be glorious for those results. And I say embrace the messy middle. The messy middle is your journey. And the messy middle is where we find our own rhythm. It's where we create our own momentum. Because it's very personal, isn't it? It has to be. When we have a personal life goal that we have, then we've got to live a personal way of doing it. You know, you might be doing it at 5 a.m. You might be doing it at lunchtime. You might be doing whatever it is that you're applying yourself to. I look at it as my whole, you know, I am an athlete thing, and this is how I put this whole thing together. But you have unmovable times. You have unmovable dates. You put this on there. You're accountable. This is how all these things move. Momentum is our friend. In order to create it, though, we have to bust out of the gravitational pull of the couch, don't we? So that, I hope that helps. This is from stuck to productive. This is how it all works. And the formula is there for all of us. It's just a matter, are we going to take it up? Are we going to apply it? Are we going to go from being, you know, superficial to being a masters of our own lives? Or are we just going to kind of keep, you know, plugging along and not real happy, not just living a gray life? I want you to live life in vibrant, living color on your own terms, because you had the guts to resist the gravitational pull of the couch and instead get into the weeds, do the hard work at the very beginning, get messy in the middle, and then sit back and look at the glorious results you're getting from living a life well lived. That's how we do it. It's just that simple. So I hope you found this helpful. It brightened my soul. This was part of my whole thing this morning when I was doing my morning routine. Peace be with you. You guys are the best. Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.